Beau is Afraid is a weird ass fucking movie. What is up everyone, I am CBM Productions, and today I have quite a bit on my mind I need to discuss regarding the latest film by the totally not divisive filmmaker Ari Aster. A film that boggles the mind in several ways, and after sitting through its lengthy 3-hour runtime, I'm left quite befuddled as a result, and in ways that Ari Aster totally intended me to be. But something that I think is a huge issue, and something that has and will continue to hurt his movies if it does continue in this direction. But before I delve into my thoughts as to why this film frustrates me on a level that inspired me to make this video, I will preface once again that this will contain spoilers for Beau is Afraid. So if you don't want to be spoiled, by all means click off this video until you've seen the movie. But for everybody else, let's just delve straight into this shit. Now starting off with the things I did appreciate about Beau is Afraid, this film, no matter what your stance is on it, you cannot deny that objectively, Ari Aster and the people that he does work with make some beautifully crafted movies. On a technical level, this film was masterfully made, from the cinematography, production design, lighting, the score, and all other technical aspects that help bring Ari Aster's vision to life were done excellently over the course of this movie. Furthermore, the acting from the entire cast is absolutely stellar. It doesn't really need to be said, but Joaquin Phoenix is tremendous as the lead role of Beau, but everybody else alongside him, no matter how big or small their role is, brings their A game and really does add a layer to their performance than their character was on the script. And it does seem like everyone put in their best efforts to achieve Ari Aster's vision. No one seems like they half-assed it, everyone really did put their best foot forward, and it does show in many ways. And it's certainly a film that I won't forget for a very long time and definitely will stick with me for years to come. But that doesn't mean it's great. Beau is Afraid is a beautiful mess of a film in every way, shape, or form. I wanted to love it so much, but I just couldn't. And there are many reasons to this, in my opinion. The first one to me is that the film doesn't really use its 3-hour runtime very wisely, in my opinion. We've seen in many cases, especially over the past year or so, in good and bad ways, of how films have used a 3-hour runtime. Beau is Afraid, for how long it is, has a story that is quite repetitive. Beau's anxiety-ridden, jumps from location to location, people scream and berate him whenever he's involved in a situation that he didn't cause, and watch, rinse, repeat for 3 hours straight until he eventually succumbs to the mania and then the credits roll. A story like that doesn't really need a 3-hour runtime in my opinion, at least with how the story is presented here, and after a while just seeing this man just get bullied and berated essentially for 3 hours straight, you get numb to it at a certain point, but at the same time it gets very grating, and honestly at some point you just want the film to change gears in some way, shape, or form. Another issue with the film's pacing is that there are certain sequences in the film that just stop the plot dead in its tracks, just to spend time with something that might be more thematically rich to some, but to me was just obnoxious and honestly could have been cut from the film entirely, or at least just shaved down from what the extent of the film was, at least dedicating an entire section to the film's runtime. Like for example, basically in the second act of the film, whenever we see Beau being nursed back to health by Nathan Lane and Amy Ryan in their house, it was interesting at first, but after a while, it just seems, the plot doesn't really move much forward, and especially after we spend time with the awful daughter of theirs.
He cold. She belongs to the streets.
I wanted the film to just move forward with this really fucked up road trip premise of Beau, with his anxiety-ridden disorder wanting to go to his mother's funeral. But instead, after that section of the film was finished, we all of a sudden spend a good half hour with these random folk in the woods, and eventually an entire 20-minute sequence which is essentially just a play about life and death. And despite being beautifully crafted, it just stops the film's plot dead in its tracks. It had no bearing on me personally, I just wanted the film to get going back on its main premise. And whenever we do get to the mom's house and we see Beau's childhood crush show back up, and all of a sudden they make out and then she just dies, and then all of a sudden the mom comes back and becomes a major player in the final act of the movie in a very unsettling way, it really intrigued me. And then the last half hour or so just devolves into random sequences of just random images like a penis in the attic, and the whole public trial going on at the very end of the movie regarding Beau's actions being judged, essentially being a manifestation for Beau's guilt. And everything just kind of playing out like a dream sequence I just couldn't care less for. And the core reason why I said why these sequences didn't really resonate with me is that the character of Beau himself is very one-note in my opinion, and just not that interesting of a character despite Joaquin Phoenix's best efforts. The character throughout the story is essentially just a reactionary character that just reacts to shit around him, and runs away when things go horribly wrong. And a character like that you're going on this journey with needs to have more depth and layers than just being a personification for every single anxiety and neurotic disorder under the sun. The film actually reminded me a lot of my personal favorite film of all time, that being Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, and how the character of Beau had a lot of striking similarities to the character of Barry Egan. They both have childhood trauma that they can't cope with, that still affects them in their adult lives. They both go on a series of events that lands them in danger several times, and both really want a woman, except Lena doesn't dive to climaxing twice.
Look at this projector in the box. Put my dick in the box.
bro, I'm dead as fuck.
The difference though to me is that Barry Egan is an endlessly fascinating character compared to Beau. In the sense that he has goals, relationships, things outside of his mental psyche, and whenever the film does delve into his mental psyche and his, traumatic issues, it adds into his already three-dimensional character versus just running around being scared for the entire runtime. And because Beau's a very flat character in my opinion, I couldn't care less about what was happening to him after like the first hour or so of the film. And to me, I don't care how beautifully looking or shot your movie is. If I don't care about the characters that are present in the story, I don't care about the series of events that unfold. No matter what the circumstances are, you should have some grounded aspects to keep your audience grounded and have a relatable aspect like a main character that you relate with, or at least understand and sympathize with, so when you go on their journey, you actually sympathize with them and you care about what's going to happen to them. But when characters don't come first in the script and it's mainly just done to be propped up for thematic elements more than actually just being a three-dimensional character, I don't care what happens in the movie. I'll just become less engaged with the film itself, no matter what the circumstances are. And that's why I believe characters should become number one priority in a film script, and Beau is Afraid fails to do that. And my ultimate issue with the film is that despite going on for many long tangents about, life and death and philosophizing about, childhood trauma, it tries to add so many thematic elements and be rich with, themes and, be so long-winded and do so many different things to ultimately tell a story that just isn't that deep and just isn't that complex in my opinion. And so instead of trying to make Beau and every other character in the film more than just, props for the film's themes, it's just such a bunch of wild shit to keep your attention, and going on way longer than it should be to tell a story that just to me isn't that interesting. If this film was 2 hours and kept the pacing and intrigue that the first hour or so gave me of the film, which I genuinely really enjoyed with how much the film, built up Beau and his circumstances and his situation, and the tension that was going on and what was going to happen next to Beau, I would have significantly enjoyed the film a lot more and would have been more engaged with it. And it's frustrating because despite walking in before I saw this movie most likely knowing it wasn't going to be for me given the feedback from people that I saw watch the film before me and their reactions to it, I still wanted to give the film a fair shot, and in the beginning it genuinely hooked me. But because Ari Aster wanted to throw spaghetti at the wall essentially and just throw every single thought and idea he had while writing the script, it makes the film feel so self-indulgent and messy and unfocused in a lot of aspects. And I feel like all of these extra ingredients that just didn't need to be added does self-sabotage the movie. And I wish somebody on the creative side of this film gave Ari Aster some pointers and recommend that he did include every single thought and idea that came to his head while writing this movie. Because although creatively this film is important, I am glad that we are getting films like this to break up the average blockbusters and sequels that we get from the box office every single weekend. I feel like when creatives like this are given carte blanche to do whatever the hell they want with their films and just include everything under their sun whenever that comes to their mind, it just dilutes whatever the original point the film was going for in exchange to essentially just see a 3-hour long Ari Aster acid trip. I'm not saying that A24 just should have stepped in and hacked the film to death Justice League style, but save all the extra weird shit you have in your film for the director's cuts. Don't overextend what you need to show. And with a film like this that does feel very self-entitled in my opinion, it doesn't really encourage me to rewatch the film and look up the themes and delve deeper into what the film was meaning for. Because when films like these put the subtext in the forefront and everything we get on the surface level is so shallow, that I don't want to delve deeper into analyzing a film like this because the film already did its job for me. I had the exact same issue with another film that came out recently, and that's Skinamarink. With that film, for all its theorizing and explaining people did online regarding what the film stood for, the actual film itself, to me, was something more than just somebody shooting their house for 100 minutes. There was barely any plot, no character arcs, barely anything that resembled a narrative, but people try to make it more than what it was. And when a film like this is made just to have that aftermath discussion, rather than just making something compelling on the surface and then focusing on the subtext later, it's not that deep in my opinion. I compare it to that one viral piece of artwork that became trendy a couple years back, the banana being duct taped to a canvas, when people try to compare that to a Picasso painting or something, and to me it was just dude, it's just a banana duct taped to a canvas. And if it works for you, that is amazing. I truly wish I had the same experience that you did if you do truly love this movie. But to me, this style of storytelling that also plagued Midsommar in a lot of ways, now makes me very wary whenever a new Ari Aster film's gonna drop in the future, instead of being pumped to see whatever he has in store. And it saddens me because back when Hereditary came out and I watched that film for the first time, it truly did leave an impact on me. And it's one of my favorite movies of all time. And to me, despite being a huge horror fanatic for several years at this point and watching some of the most disturbing movies of all time in my lifetime so far, Hereditary to me is still the scariest film that I've seen to this day. And ever since sneaking into a theater to watch it back when I was 15, nearly 5 years later, I'm still scared to rewatch it, despite owning the Blu-ray for the longest time. And that's a film that not only was creative and original, but despite telling the most complex story of all of Aster's 3 films so far, it's the one film out of his filmography thus far that doesn't fuck around for endless sequences to be more artistically rich, and tells a story of complicated characters, amazing performances, great scares. And when there is imagery and subtext, it adds into what's already going on, and after watching the film, I want to know more about this world and these characters, and every single image that I didn't get while watching the film for the first time. and wanting to see somebody else's viewpoint on the film. Hereditary was a great film on the surface, and it made me love the film more the more I talked about it with people afterwards. Because Ari Aster had restrictions, he had boundaries, he had to prove something as a filmmaker for the first time making a major film. And I feel like now since he has notoriety, he's proven himself, he's a major established filmmaker, he can do whatever he wants and he just doesn't have that challenge anymore. And it's caused his last two films to suffer because of that, in my opinion. And I feel like if Hereditary was made today with the same budget that Ari Aster was given to make Beau's Afraid, in the same context of his filmography, it would be a lot less intriguing of a film in my opinion. And that spark I used to have whenever a new Ari Aster film came out has dwindled quite a bit after seeing this movie, and it frustrates me because I want to be pumped up whenever a new Ari Aster movie comes out. But I just can't anymore right now, and despite I know a lot of people have loved this movie, a lot of people are also in the same boat that I am that feels very frustrated. I know people in my personal life as well as seeing people on YouTube saying that they will never watch an Ari Aster movie again. I'm not saying that he should just start, making generic audience-pleasing movies. We already get enough of that in Hollywood. But not make something that's just so self-isolating and pretentious. But the way he's been making his films have turned off a lot of people to his movies just unceremoniously. I want to love his films in the way that Hereditary did for me. I want to love his films in the way that really just resonate with me and I can truly love and appreciate them, more than just saying, oh yeah, the objectively good technical aspects are great again. I don't want his films to be self-sabotaged, and I don't want people to turn off his works or not give him a chance just because of his reputation. I want that spark back that made Hereditary so special. I equate to the early work of Spielberg, to where looking at the first few films he made had that raw energy spark that made those films so just entertaining and just so grounded and so just revolutionary, like whether you're talking about Jaws or E.T. or Raiders, versus every film he's made for the past 20 or so years that have essentially just been Oscar bait movies time and time again. Or look at Damien Chazelle's career. From each passing film from Whiplash onwards, they seem to have lost their spark and been more focused on trying to receive awards. To some success, most of the time. I feel like when a filmmaker isn't challenged and can just do whatever they want, it causes their work to become soft and not have that spark that they used to have as a filmmaker. And I hope Ari Aster really does change gears going forward to where I can really get excited about his movies again. But regardless, I am glad that Ari Aster did get to bring his vision to life and that there is a studio out there like A24 that will put their money where their mouth is and make original films like this knowing that they probably won't turn up profits. And give Ari Aster carte blanche to do whatever he wants with no restrictions. I just hope that lack of restriction doesn't bite him in the ass in the long run. But anyways, what do you guys think about Beau's Afraid? I would love to hear your discourse in the comments as always, and I hope you guys got something out of today's video, and as always, I'll see you guys whenever I see you next. Peace out.